Hey Astro Kids, and welcome back. This is your April 2020 horoscope for Pisces Sun, Moon, or Rising. So before I get into the cards, I'd like to take a look at the astrology. So this is going to be highlighting the major planetary shifts in April 2020. So before we begin, if you enjoyed this, feel free to leave a like as well as a comment. If you are new to this channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any new content. So the first major shift takes place on April the 3rd. So this is Venus entering Gemini. So with Venus entering Gemini, it is leaving the sign of Taurus, its home sign, where it has been in this very beautiful space, and it is now entering Gemini, which it will spend a great deal of time in, as Venus is going to go retrograde here in Gemini, as well as meet up with the North Node. And so there's a lot of lessons that are coming with Venus in Gemini. Now, as Venus enters Gemini, here on the 3rd, Venus is making the aspect over to Pluto and Jupiter conjoined in Capricorn. And this is a big deal because this is the first time that we are seeing Pluto and Jupiter together in Capricorn without Saturn. Saturn has moved on. Saturn is now in Aquarius. So if you'd like to know more about Saturn and Aquarius, go ahead and check out my previous video on Saturn in Aquarius. For that specific transit, that is a very big one, as it is shifting our reality. It's shifting the world as we know it, taking us into this brand new era. Now, Saturn is also a part of this aspect, and it is conjoined with Mars. Yes, Mars is now in Aquarius, and so all of the energy, the passion, the drive is going into this brand new reality that is being formed here with Saturn in Aquarius. That is all about technology, that is all about humanity, that is all about the future, that is all about us coming together in unity, that is all about the responsibility and the lesson being shifted away from old systems and foundations and into the hands of the people. And so there is a major responsibility, a major call of duty, of action here with this Saturn conjunct Mars in Aquarius. Also, Pluto is here conjoined by Jupiter, where without Saturn, things may feel much lighter, more free in this area. However, and this is your 11th house for many of you if you are a Pisces rising. And so it can feel like a weight, a duty, a responsibility in your house of friendships, in your house of social groups and organizations, is being lifted, is being removed. However, there is still this intense transformation that is happening in this area of your life, as well as Jupiter is here to expand upon this Pluto energy, which is a big story, as Pluto is going to retrograde in its conjunction to Jupiter, which we will see on the 25th of April. So we will talk about that a little bit more as we go through the charts and we get to April 25th, that major moment of Pluto stationing retrograde. Right, so this will be the first other than Mercury going retrograde, the first retrograde that takes place this year is Pluto. And so we are still going through this intense transformation. And for those of you with Pisces rising, even those of you with Pisces Sun or Moon may feel this as well, that this is a transformation that is shifting in your connections, in your social life, in the groups, the organizations that you are a part of. Also, for many of you, in your long-term goals, remember that the 11th house is also this house of hopes, wishes, and dreams being fulfilled. This is your long-term success. And so there is this big transformation that is taking place here in this area of your life, which directly connects over to this 4th house of Gemini, right? For many of you, you have your 4th house of home and family in Gemini, and as Venus enters here, there is this call to be social, to connect within your home life, within your family, right? So this is very much taking your attention off of socializing publicly, interacting with the public, and bringing this focus and attention back to your home, your family life, those closest to you. Now, this is also making an aspect over to Mercury conjunct Neptune, which is in your 1st house for many of you with Pisces rising. And so there is this clarity that is coming to the surface for many of you with Pisces rising, right? And if you are coming from any of the previous videos, you may have noticed that I talked about this position of Neptune and Mercury conjoined being an area of confusion, of misunderstanding, of not seeing things clearly. However, for many of you with Pisces rising, this is bringing clarity into focus. Okay, because this is your perspective anyway, right? For those of you with Pisces rising, you are seeing the world through a filter, through a lens of Pisces. This is your perspective on life. And so with Neptune and Mercury conjoined here, you are dealing with your very own energy that many of you already understand and are able to perceive and see through, even though, yes, Pisces has this very dreamy, mysterious, very spiritual, imaginative way of seeing that is very different. This is why Mercury does not function as well here in Pisces, as Mercury wants the information, the logic, the details. And so this can be a very foggy area for Mercury. However, your planetary ruler of Neptune is here in your home sign, and Mercury is here to simply add clarity to that, to simply bring information to your attention. And so for many of you, this can be a time of extreme clarity, a time of feeling like you want to connect more to others, especially as this is making the aspect over to Venus and Gemini. Keep in mind that these two energies are in mutual reception, right? Venus would rather be in Pisces, and Neptune and Jupiter However, Mercury would rather be in Gemini, right? Mercury has more clarity. Mercury can make more sense of things in Gemini, where it is a thinking based, logical based type of energy. Pisces being more of a dreamer, right? More of this spiritual, imaginative, otherworldly type of energy, where Mercury does not quite understand this, right? And when we look at these energies, something that you have to understand here is that both of these two planets, Neptune and Mercury, are like antennas, right? Mercury is here to communicate the logic, the details, the facts, the information. But Neptune is here to communicate the spiritual, right? Neptune is here to connect us to this higher mystical type of energy here. And so both of these are here to give you this strong signal. And so for many of you with Pisces rising, this is actually a time of extreme clarity for many of you. And this is a time of wanting to be more social, wanting to connect more. Remember that we're talking about Venus sitting in your house of home and family. And so this can play out in terms of your private life, connecting to the people closest to you, which again is clarity for you, because once again, this is an energy that many of you are already used to. For those of you who have Pisces rising, right? This is a very familiar energy. Now, Venus is also making an aspect over to the Sun in Aries. So this is the Sun about halfway through Aries now, right? And as Venus is making the aspect over to the Sun, this is even more so pushing this desire for expression, right? This is a time of wanting to connect, wanting to express yourself, wanting to socialize and connect with others. So as Venus enters into that fourth house of home and family, this can very much make you much more expressive, much more talkative, much more social in terms of your closest connections, right? Your connection to home, your connection to family members, particularly your connection to the mother. And so this transit here, this very first transit in April, can very much create this strong connection to family and the home. And this is supported even more so with the aspect over to the moon in Leo, where this is putting your feelings out on display. This is a time of expression. This is a time to really start to put yourself out there. And Leo, for many of you, is sitting in your sixth house of work and daily responsibilities and routines, where for many of you who have Pisces rising, your work life is fun, your work life is exciting, right? The responsibilities, the duties that you take care of are fun, exciting, full of life. And with this moon here, this is wanting to express this. This is wanting to show this in a big way. And so once again, this is a big time of communicating, expressing yourself, putting your ideas out there, showing others what you can do in your life. Now, Venus is also making the aspect over to Juno, which is something that we will talk about as time goes on. But there is something big happening here in April, which is not on our list of major transits, which will be a full moon on April 7th, which will make a conjunction with Juno. Right? So that will be a separate video. So keep an eye out for the video on the full moon in Libra happening on April 7th. That'll be a big full moon, as it will conjoin Juno and make a quincunx over to Neptune and Pisces. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next major transit. So on April 4th, Jupiter makes a conjunction with Pluto. And we already started to talk about this, but this is the exact conjunction of Pluto and Jupiter, right? So we are currently in the buildup of that exact conjunction. And as Jupiter and Pluto come together, these intense changes and transformations that are taking place in your social life, right? This is back in the 11th house for many of you. So these intense changes and transformations that are taking place here in your house of friends and social groups and long-term goals is expanding. It is growing. It is helping you learn and experience more. And especially as Pluto starts to retrograde, which again we will see that on April 25th, this will really create deep internal change and transformation within yourself that will help you expand and grow within your life. Now, this conjunction is making an aspect over to Venus. So once again, we talked about Venus in Gemini, sitting in your house of home and family. And this is Venus at 1 degree. So Venus is starting to move along. Again, Venus will spend a lot of time in Gemini, as Venus will retrograde in Gemini. And so Venus is going to spend a lot of time squaring your rising sign for many of you. And so this is very much pulling your attention and focus away from your public life and what you are presenting to the world and back into your private life, into matters of the home, into family. And the thing that is very interesting about this is Venus making a square over to the moon in Virgo. For many of you, Virgo is your relationship house. And so this puts the moon back in your house of relationships, right? For some of you, this is dealing with marriage. For some of you, with business partners, with your professional life, your public life, the way that you are relating to others. And so there's a little bit of this inner conflict between your connection with home and family and your connection with other people in the world, right? And we talked about how this is pulling a lot of your focus away from your connection with these social organizations, these social groups, right? This is pulling a lot of energy with Venus and Gemini inward for a lot of you, you're going to feel more comfortable with your family, with the people closest to you. However, there's a little bit of an inner conflict here as the moon is asking you to handle practical matters in your public life. And so there is something big here about taking criticism, taking lessons, taking advice from those in your professional life, in your public life at this time, that can create some major conflict with your connection to home and family. And so there is a call here on April 4th to really find that balance between your public life and your personal life. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next major transit, which will be on April 11th, when Mercury enters Aries. And so we have Mercury here at 0 degrees, and right away it makes a conjunction over to Lilith and Chiron in Aries. For many of you, this is sitting in your second house, where this can create a little bit of fear, insecurity, confusion, doubt over your finances, right? This is sitting in your second house of finance, of security, of values, of morals, of your possessions, the things that you have worked for, the things that you've built up in your life. And so there is a little bit of this uncertainty as Chiron is with Lilith in this house, right? Bringing up fears, bringing up insecurities, bringing up deep desires, very complicated feelings. And Mercury is here to conjoin this energy, where Mercury is making these insecurities and fears even more clear to you. Mercury is the messenger and is here to communicate and bring up these deeper feelings that need to be addressed here. And keep in mind that we've experienced this Chiron and Aries energy all year round, where this is the breakdown of the ego. Right? And so for many of you, this Aries energy of ego, of identity, of the way that you assert yourself and project yourself to others, is sitting in this house that is very much tied to your self-worth and your stability in life. And so there is a question here of whether or not this is something that is truly connected to who you are, or something that is connected to the ego, connected to the attachment to identity. And so all the things in your life that you hold of worth, of value, is this to serve you in your highest, greatest good, or is this just for the sake of ego? Mercury is also making a square over to the North Node in Cancer, which is a big deal because the North Node is now at 1 degrees, where it is coming to its critical point. Right, so the North Node is getting ready to enter Gemini, which we will see in early May. And so the nodes are coming to their critical degrees. They're coming to the last moment of being in Cancer and Capricorn, right? We're ending this karmic story, these lessons that need to be faced here with the North Node in Cancer. And so there is a call here to make sure that you are dealing with these lessons that are coming up with this North Node in Cancer before the North Node shifts back into Gemini, which is a very powerful moment as the North Node is exalted in Gemini. And so, as the North Node enters Gemini, it does have a lot to say. It has a lot of lessons that need to be learned. It has a lot to bring to your attention. And so, before this North Node enters into Gemini, there is this urgency, right? This last moment, this last call to really make sure that you are honoring these lessons of the North Node in Cancer, which for many of you, Cancer is sitting in your 5th house, right? So many of you very passionate about being empathetic, about caring, nurturing others. For those of you with Pisces rising. And with the North Node here, it is your destiny, it is your call to utilize these gifts of empathy and compassion and connection to serve others and to serve yourself, right? This North Node in Cancer is very much about what is nurturing you, what is serving you to the highest, greatest good in your life. Mercury is also making a trine over to the moon in Sagittarius, where with the moon in Sagittarius, many of you can feel very adventurous, very passionate, a lot of mental activity going on here, of really wanting to do something at this time, wanting to expand your world, wanting to adventure, wanting to really expand those horizons. And this is sitting in your career house for many of you, right? Your 10th house of career, of social status, of reputation, how you are seen in the eyes of the public. And so with the moon here, you can feel very passionate about learning and creating and expanding and adventuring out with your career, with your reputation in life. And this can make you come off as very emotional, very sensitive, very energetic, very passionate at this time. But with the moon here in your house of career, this is interesting because it is this call for you to go out and adventure and expand upon your horizons. And so you might find that this is a very frustrating time for many of you as you are still under lockdown, still in the privacy of your home, where really this energy has to be explored for the most part in your mind, right? This is a time of really reading and studying and looking into those things that you've always wanted to learn about and experience. And so, very tough energy here with all of this mental activity and excitement around wanting to adventure out, wanting to see what you can do, especially to leave your mark, to say that you've had these experiences, that you've done these things that you've always wanted to accomplish. And so you might find that here on April 11th, especially, you could feel very restless, right? Very much restless, very active, right? A lot of thinking. And so make sure that you are doing something productive during this time to get out all of this energy so that this does not cause issues with your sleeping, with your health, right? There's a lot that has to do with this restlessness and not knowing where to put all of this energy at, all of this mental energy. And so very much a time for you to really start thinking and learning and writing down your ideas and doing something productive around the house so that you are not leaving yourself feeling restless, having difficulty sleeping, right? Having an overactive mind. Now, Mercury is also making the aspect over to Pluto and Jupiter conjoined in Capricorn, as well as Saturn and Mars conjoined in Aquarius. And so, once again, this ties into your social life. This ties into who you are connecting to in your public life, as well as your long-term goals. And also, there is something big to say about how Mars and Saturn are here with this duty, with this responsibility to serve humanity, to connect to others, to help and assist others. But this is sitting in Aquarius, which is ruling your 12th house of hidden things, of the subconscious, of unconscious desires, right? This is very much a hidden part of yourself for many of you. And so there is something big to say about needing to take this time for introspection, to look deep within, to look and see what are these responsibilities and duties that I need to take care of for myself, because a lot of this is coming through in dreams, in symbols, in hidden messages, right? Deep within the subconscious. And so you might find that with this moon in Sagittarius mental activity, that this is a great time for you to meditate, a great time for you to journal, to really look within and ask those questions about what is your responsibility, what are the things that you need to take care of with Saturn and Mars sitting back in your 12th house. And for many of you with Saturn and Mars in your 12th house, right, and you might have felt this as soon as Saturn entered into Aquarius, for those of you with Pisces rising, that it feels as if you are unsure about what your responsibility is, what your duties are, where your focus should be, right? Because this does put this energy, which both Saturn and Mars are these malefic energies of passion, of drive, of responsibility, of purpose, of getting things done, or sitting back in your subconscious in an area of your life that you are not consciously aware of. And so it is a great time for introspection. It is a great time to look deep within to see, okay, what are these responsibilities and duties? What is this repressed passion and desire and focus and energy really meant to go into in my life? So let's take a look at the next major planetary shift. So on April 19th, the Sun enters Taurus, and right away the Sun makes a conjunction with Uranus in Taurus, right? We already saw Venus cross over Uranus and Taurus, which very much started to shake up our values and stability and security in life. In terms of education, social connection for many of you. And so a little bit of shaky ground with your connections, a little bit of shaky ground with your thinking, with your learning, with your environment. And as the sun comes in and conjoins Uranus, this is putting a light on that radical change, on those surprising events, on that shakeup of your everyday life, of your interactions, right? Of your way of thinking, of learning, of your environment. The sun is also making a sextile over to the North Node in Cancer, which again, the North Node is coming to that critical point of really needing to face those lessons of the North Node in Cancer, right? This is really the last time. And remember that for many of you, Cancer is sitting in your 5th house of romance, of dating, of passion, of creativity, of excitement, right? Of the things that are on your heart. For some of you, even children, right? Is there a great purpose and desire at this time that is being needed to be fulfilled in nurturing, in taking care of protecting your child? And so very interesting for any of you with Pisces rising who may have just had a child born, who may have a young child in your life that you are taking care of, that there is something big about your children unlocking your destiny, unlocking your purpose. And it is at that last degree where this is critical, this is urgent. And so there is this extreme focus in this area for many of you. And the sun is also making an aspect over to, once again, Jupiter conjoined with Pluto, as well as Mars conjoined with Saturn. And so once again, these changes being made in your social life and in your long-term goals, as well as this purpose, this drive, this passion, this responsibility back in your subconscious, back in the hidden, unknown, repressed area of your life. And so once again, really wanting to take a look deeply within to see what are these repressed feelings, these repressed duties and responsibilities. And remember that Saturn is going to spend a lot of time in Aquarius. It will retrograde back into Capricorn in July, but it will return into its permanent position of Saturn in Aquarius in December. And we will see that great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn coming together in Aquarius on December 21st. And so keep an eye out for that future video of the Jupiter-Saturn great conjunction in Aquarius. But major shifts happening in your social life. A lot of duties and responsibilities, a lot of repressed passion. For some of you, repressed anger, repressed frustration, repressed agitation that is pushing, motivating, calling you on a subconscious level to stand up and take responsibility in your life. So let's go ahead and take a look at this next major transit here in April, which is on April 22nd, when the new moon is in Taurus. And so this is a brand new lunar cycle that we are entering into with the new moon in Taurus. And this is the first one that we've seen in a while that is not happening at 4 degrees, right? This is a 3-degree new moon. Very, very interesting here as we are coming into this more social and more talkative space here in life, that the number 3 is very much associated with Gemini, which is where Venus will spend a great deal of time all the way through July, as it does enter into retrograde in Gemini. Now, right away, this new moon is making a conjunction to Uranus in Taurus. And so this is a very radical, very unconventional new moon. And this is sitting in your 3rd house of thinking, learning, communicating, right? Familiar surroundings, short distance travel. And so there's a lot to say about how this is affecting your way of thinking and communicating, creating these radical changes that need to take place in this area. And this can really shift things in a big way in terms of your perspective and what you are open to learn in your life. Really shifting your way of thinking, your way of seeing and perceiving things in your environment. And again, this is making an aspect over to Pluto and Jupiter, which once again is making that big transformation. And Pluto, of course, is getting close to this point where it will station retrograde. We're going to talk about that in the next major transit that we will look at. But Pluto is here in a conjunction with Jupiter, where it is expanding and helping you grow and learn through this major transformation, right? In your circle of friends, in the groups and organizations that you're a part of, in your long-term goals. This is also making an aspect over to Saturn. No longer is it making an aspect to Saturn conjunct Mars, right? Mars has moved on at this point, about halfway through Aquarius. And so this is simply making an aspect over to Saturn, where this is really focused on your responsibilities and duties that have been suppressed, that are hidden, that are deep within the subconscious at this moment. And so what is your inner authority saying at this time? Right? Again, this is a great time for introspection, a great time for meditation, really going in within and really looking at and seeing what your inner authority is telling you at this time is your ultimate duty and responsibility. This is also making a semi-sextile over to Neptune in Pisces. And again, Neptune is sitting in your home sign of Pisces. And so for those of you who have Pisces rising, this is Neptune sitting in your house of your perspective, your self-image, the way that you present yourself to the world, right? This is all about you and your identity. And so with Neptune and Pisces here, it is a major moment of you believing and imagining and dreaming and feeling inspired by the world around you. And so this is a little bit dangerous here with Mercury this time being off of Neptune, as Neptune is sitting in your first house. This can make you very susceptible and easily influenced by what is going on in the world around you. And so this is where you want to be very cautious of fears. You want to be very cautious of negative energy that you are around and being exposed to, right? Being cautious about the people that you are connecting to, the people that you're around. This Neptune in the first house can easily bring in negative energy. It can easily bring in illness. It can easily bring in subtle influences by others, right? Influencing your actions, your thoughts. And so this is a little bit of a dangerous placement here. For those of you with Pisces rising, you want to make sure that you are surrounding yourself by positive energy that can help lift you up and raise your vibration during these difficult times that we are in. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next major transit here, which is on April 25th when Pluto stations retrograde. So Pluto does station retrograde in a conjunction with Jupiter. And so we talked about this before, how this transformation, which is happening in your social life, right? The people that you're interacting with, the large groups, the organizations, even for some of you, your hopes, your dreams, your long-term goals. And this is creating a deep internal transformation. And again, we want to be careful about Neptune sitting in your first house. This is making the aspect over to Neptune as well, where your public life can heavily influence you to make changes within yourself that can very much create, because Jupiter is on top of Pluto here, right? This is a conjunction over to Jupiter as well, where it can create exaggeration. It can create extreme moments, right? This can really blow things up in a big way, in a negative way for some of you. This could really blow things up in a positive way as well. And so we want to be careful about the energies that you are allowing to influence you, the energies that you are around, Pisces, right? Because you are already very sensitive to energies and vibrations around you, right? And many of you who have Pisces rising, maybe even many of you who have your sun or your moon in Pisces as well, are very familiar what I am talking about at this moment. How you are very empathetic, very intuitive, very sensitive, right? You are very receptive to energies and vibrations and emotions of others around you. And so, with Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, sitting in your first house as well, be aware that this is increasing that sensitivity, increasing that receptivity, increasing that intuition, increasing that empathy. And so, at this time, you want to be cautious about the energies that you are around. Now, this is also making an aspect over to Mercury, which is in the last degrees of Aries, getting ready to slow things down as it comes into Taurus. And so as it's sitting here in the last degrees of Aries, sort of utilizing the last of the exhaust, right? Think about an engine that is running low and using the last of the exhaust, the last of that fuel up, right? Mercury is very much working on reserves here, as it has been in Aries with this speed, this focus, this direction, this energy, this excitement, and it is starting to slow down as it comes into Taurus. So we're going to talk about that in the next planetary shift a little bit more. But as this is making the aspect to Mercury in Aries, which is sitting in your second house for many of you, there's a lot that is coming up in terms of your security, your stability, that is heavily being influenced in a big way by others around you. Remember that this Pluto retrograde is happening in your social life, in your social groups, in the organizations, in the people that you're associating with. And so, again, there is something big here about how this is very much influencing you in your life. So, you want to be very cautious of this energy and how it is influencing and playing a role in your life. So let's move on to this last major planetary shift, which will be Mercury entering Taurus. And so we just finished up talking about how Mercury at those last degrees of Aries was running on its last bit of fuel, its last bit of energy reserves. And now it has entered into Taurus, where Mercury is encouraging us to slow down, to really think things through in a practical way. And especially as it is sitting in your third house of communication, of thinking, of learning. This is very much asking you, especially those of you who have Pisces rising, to slow down your way of thinking, to think in a more practical way, to think in a more methodical, step-by-step, planned out way, where you are meeting your values, where you are serving your purpose. Right? This Taurus energy is very much about investment. Right? Taurus is only connecting to the things that are serving, the things that are worth it, the things that have a goal or a value that comes out of it. This is also making a sextile over to the North Node in Cancer, which is in a conjunction to the Moon. This is the last time that we're going to see the Moon in a big way with the North Node in Cancer, as the North Node is at its last degree of Cancer at this point. And so this is it. This is the critical degree. This is the final moment to make sure that all of these lessons of really nurturing yourself, really taking care of your passion, your desire, your creativity, your ability to care for and nurture and take care of yourself and others. Because this is it, right? As we come into May, the North Node is going to enter into Gemini. And so here on April 27th, this is your last moment to utilize this North Node in Cancer energy. This is also making an aspect over to Pluto retrograde, which is in a conjunction with Jupiter, as well as Saturn in Aquarius. Now, there is something big here that I want you to pay attention to. Is we have an asteroid here at the 29th degree of Capricorn. And this asteroid is called Pallas Athena. This is an asteroid that is very much dealing with wisdom and strategy. And so this asteroid is all about how do you handle your problems? What is your strategy to cope with and handle tough situations? And so this is sitting for many of you in your 11th or 12th house, right? This is just on the cusp of Aquarius. And so here there is something big to say about how connecting with yourself, for some of you, sitting in your 12th house, or connecting with others, right? Sitting in that 11th house of social connections. But there is something big to say about how connection is the key to serving and coping with and figuring out a strategy to handle difficulty and problems that can arise. So let's take a look at the cards. So I am using the Connolly Tarot deck, as well as the Barbie Aries Zodiac Oracle deck, the Black Moon Astrology deck, and we have a card here from the traditional playing cards. So starting off for you, Pisces, we're starting off here with the Nine of Cups, and I love the imagery here of the cups all laid out on the table. There's something big about this Nine of Cups that is just laying it all out on the table. Just allowing yourself to feel, allowing yourself to open up and put everything out there. Right? And so this is a major call to release and let go of old feelings and attachments. And this is already happening for you in a big way. Right, this puts Uranus in your third house, that there are these radical changes and unexpected moments happening in terms of what you are connected to, what you are feeling close to on a deep emotional level. And so in your personal life, a lot of changes that are being made here. We have the Hanged Man in reverse. And so even though we are seeing these changes that are being made, some of you are not ready to let go. Right? But even more in a big way, this is letting go within yourself. Remember that Saturn is sitting in your 12th house, where this sense of authority and restriction and limitation is hidden behind the scenes for most of you, right? It is deep within the subconscious. And so there is this deep fear of letting go and allowing yourself to be that inner authority. And very much connected to the moon in reverse, which is a big time of not reacting, not responding emotionally, but acknowledging these deeper feelings within yourself, acknowledging these emotions that needed to be sorted out within you, acknowledging these changes that are taking place. Right, and there's something big to say about you, Pisces, how we're having this moon conjunct the North Node for the last time in Cancer, in your 5th house of expression, creativity, passion, excitement. Right, that this is it. This is time to face your feelings. This is time to nurture your feelings. This is time to embrace your feelings. This is the last moment. This is a time with the Ten of Swords of introspection, of meditation, of clearing the mind, right? We talked a lot about searching and seeking for those answers with that moon in Sagittarius, clearing the mind, releasing that mental energy, utilizing it to understand on a deeper level. And so, a lot of major last moments for you, Pisces. We have the Three of Pentacles in reverse. This is a time to learn about yourself more. This is a time for that deeper introspection, a time to look within and see these lessons, see what your subconscious is trying to tell you. Right? So this is an internal journey with the Hermit here. This is an internal journey that you need to go on, Pisces. This is time to journey within yourself. And so this is time to look within and ask those questions. A lot of deep introspection, which is an energy that for many of you, you are used to, or that you are the embodiment of. And so it really is a time to own yourself. It is a time to reflect within yourself. So that you can grow, so that you can nurture your ideas, so that you can nurture who you are and become a better version of yourself. And so this is time for you, Pisces rising, to come out of this negative space, to come out of these old patterns, right? These old behaviors. This is time for you to grow and to step into a higher purpose, a higher calling that is nurturing, that is beneficial, that is of the highest value to you and others around you. Right, and speaking of values, we do start off here with Taurus, where this is very much about changing your stability, changing your focus, changing where your values and your worth are going. Are the things that you are doing at this moment truly of the highest value and worth to you? And Mars is in reverse, where once again we talked about Mars sitting back in your subconscious, sitting back behind the scenes, where this can really feel like a time of repressed feelings of passion, of determination, of moving forward. And this is because this is time for deep introspection. This is time to look within yourself. This is time to ask those questions, to get the truth, to get the answers from your internal compass, from your inner guidance. Right, we have Neptune here. We talked a lot about Neptune sitting in your first house. Right, and Neptune has spent a lot of time here in your first house. But it is nearing those last degrees of Pisces, which are the most intense, as it is preparing to enter into Aries, which we will not see for a while as Neptune will retrograde. However, as Neptune comes to those last degrees, it does intensify those energies of what you are susceptible to, right? As we start to get to those last degrees of Pisces, there is something big to say about addiction, about impulsive behavior, about reckless decisions, about disasters, endings. As Neptune comes to those last degrees of Pisces, that this can be a big time of being susceptible to negative energies around you. And so it is a good time for you to focus on deep introspection and nurturing yourself in finding a more stable security, a more stable ground to stand on. To connect, remember that Pallas Athena in your 11th house, to connect to those who can help you farm a strategy, farm a plan, to help ground you, to help support you in your life. And this is all about supporting you with Venus, really about self-love, about self-worth, self-esteem for many of you, right? Knowing your own power, your own inner authority. Remember, Saturn and Mars are sitting back in your 12th house. So that you are not open to these energies that are negative, that don't serve you in your life. And we do have the third house messages. We talked a lot about that third house where Uranus is sitting for many of you. Right, and we have that new moon that takes place in your third house for many of you. And there's something big here about, once again, connecting to your inner self to receive these messages. There's something big about these unexpected messages that can come to you in your environment, in your changes in the way that you are thinking and learning and communicating. Changing in this area can bring forth messages and signs that are helpful and beneficial to you along your path, along your journey. And so major changes happening in this third house for you. We also have the first house, the body, right? And we talked a lot about this for you as well. Neptune sitting in that first house, where you can be susceptible to negative influences with Neptune sitting in there. Neptune is an amazing planet of imagination, of dreams, of spirituality. Neptune also, however, being connected to illness, to delusion, to deception, right? And so Neptune, very dangerous, sitting back in your first house, as this can affect your mind, this can affect your connection with the environment around you. Right, you can be heavily influenced in this area, especially with Neptune entering into those last degrees of Pisces, that this can bring in negative influences and reckless behaviors based upon the environment that you are in. And so being very cautious of that is highly important to your health, highly important to your state of mind, right? Highly important to you and your journey, which this is a personal journey. We saw that with the Hermit card, right? Also with Saturn and Mars sitting back in that 12th house of really going on that inner journey to find that inner authority within yourself, We also have Venus here. Again, Venus is going to spend a lot of time in your fourth house of home and family, where it will retrograde. Venus here very much associated with you finding your self-worth, finding your self-esteem, loving yourself, right? Major moment of self-love for you, Pisces. Now, the last card that we have here is the Three of Diamonds. And the number 3 here very much associated with expression. The diamonds being of practical matters, of realistic matters. And so there is something big here about needing to, once again, connect. We talked about that palace in your 11th house of connecting for support, connecting to find that grounding, to find those solutions within your day-to-day life. And so that is your horoscope for Pisces Sun, Moon, or Rising for April 2020. This was a longer video, so thanks so much for those of you who stuck around until the end. Thanks so much for watching. Once again, if you enjoyed this, feel free to leave a like as well as a comment. If you are new to this channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell. Feel free to join the group Astro Metaphysical Love and Light to share all of your positive message, psychic readings, spiritual wisdom, motivational advice, any type of positivity that you would like to share or receive. Feel free to join the group. If you'd like to learn more about astrology, feel free to join the group Astrology Lessons with Daquan Jones to learn astrology with me. Thanks once again for watching. I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you in the next video.